Hi, Sil. Welcome back. Really great to see you, and I appreciate that you're helping me out here. Did such a good job on my Tom Waits show interview, and here we are once again, and great to have you here. Thanks.
I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to it. So, the cloning of Jesus Christ. Wow, what a title. Did you like some kind? I mean, it's like the Bible, but not like the Bible. Shining New Testament. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a book that I've always wanted to write. It's the story of J. Christ, the clone of Jesus Christ, as told by the four disciples, his four gospels, instead of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as we all know and are familiar with. This is Matias, Marcos, Luigi, and Jane, each one of them telling their story of their encounters and their experiences with J. Christ. So, I grew up in a religious home. My mother she was a big fan of Jesus Christ, and she lived her entire life trying to emulate Jesus up to her last breath, and I mean that literally. She was the ideal Christian, and so I was exposed to a lot of this in my home. So this is a story modeled after, but quite different, quite a different take from the actual Bible.
And what are you trying to tell the world?
Well, I don't want to hit people over the head with my message, so my message is actually spread throughout the book in a lot of different ways. To give you one of the most specific examples, I guess you could say, I mean, J. Christ actually does the Sermon on the Mount. It's Mount Hood instead of Mount Sinai. And his speech that he gives, this sermon that he gives to the public outside of Portland, Oregon, by Mount Hood, is then interpreted by three different points of view. Three of the four Gospels are present, and each one has their own interpretation of what he has to say. But in addition to that, this is kind of a post-COVID, nearly apocalyptic story set slightly in the future, and it involves many of the types of problems that we've seen here. There's a collapse of the social network. There's a lot of hunger and starvation. I mean, I don't want to paint a bleak picture because the book is actually quite humorous, I think, in many ways. And but what I'm trying to share with the world is, what would how would we react if Jesus Christ really did come back as promised? How would he be received? Would he be worshipped? Would he be studied, followed? Would he be persecuted? Would he be crucified? What would happen to him? And this book essentially is a lot of that.
And there seems to be many voices. Is there one more important, or it changes through time?
Good question, Sil, because voice is a very, very important part of this book, and there are many voices. The four Gospels being probably four of the most important ones. J. Christ himself has a voice and speaks and participates throughout in many different scenes and settings, many of them similar or in some way parallel to what occurred to Jesus Christ during the times of the Bible. But I just have always really admired books that incorporate different voices. I think it's one of the big challenges of a writer is to write in the voice of others, And these four voices of the four Gospels are all very distinct, very, very different. Jane is a woman, so it's from a woman's point of view. Marcos is black and gay, and so it's from his point of view. Luigi is an Italian ambulance chaser lawyer who essentially butchers the English language, but he's very clever and he says a lot of really kind of funny things. And Matias is an Argentine. He's an Argentine professional golfer and meets J. Christ on the golf course. So voice is a big deal. It's a very important part.
And what about women? Do they play an important role in this story?
Again, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, women are extremely important in the book. By rights, I probably should have had two women gospels just to keep it fair, but I did have one woman and one gay, and several of the heroes of the book are women. there are women doctors, there are women park rangers, there are women teachers, and one of my biggest villains in the book is a woman as well. And so women are extremely important in the book, and I think they're treated very equitably, and I really worked hard on that because I had it proofread by a woman who pointed that out to me. You know, you really need to empower some of these women, which I was happy to do, and it really made sense.
Wow. And what about the setting? How did you choose the many locations?
Okay, well, I'd like to say this was all very carefully planned, but essentially I just wrote about what I know. So the settings basically come from my life. The book starts in Argentina. Mine actually started in the United States, but in a way it's a little bit of a reverse there. But it goes to Portland, Oregon, where I've lived for 5 years. It touches in Carbondale, Illinois, where I went to university. It ends up in Miami, which is a city I've never lived in, but I've always known and loved. And so the book follows, in many ways, my life and the places that I've been, the places that I know. And I think it'll be one of the more appealing things about the book, too, is the fact that it's written in a lot of different places.
And what about religious people? Do you think they would like the book, relate to the book, be offended by the book?
Yeah, I'm sure some people will be offended, because even if you mention the name Jesus out of the context of Christianity, then you're stepping on some toes. And I think that I try to be respectful, but at the same time, I'm not a believer. I'll be first to admit. I mean, you know, Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawson are big influences on my life. And so you can imagine that I'm coming from a very different perspective. But I'm sure some people will feel offended, but if I've always lived my life thinking that if I don't offend people once in a while, then I'm probably not saying what I should. So I think some things need to be said. Okay?
Great. So curious.
Well, great. I'm looking forward to being able to read and tell others about it. So look forward to a launch here in the next week or so.
Perfect. So people, let's read.